Welcome to the 12th episode of Tuning In with Bob Lancer and
Greg Nielsen, otherwise known as Dr. G by my students.
I always have to laugh when you introduce yourself. I don't know why. There's so
I-
much joy in your name.
I'm just a happy person, and whenever I use my name, it's almost hilarious.
It's true. All right,
We're
well,
so much more than our name.
yes.
Yeah,
But then again, a rose by any other name is still a rose,
that's right.
right? You used to know a rose.
I did,
You
exactly.
still probably do.
Yeah,
So, okay, I want to open with a quote from Isidore's, and maybe we can talk about it a little bit. And you mentioned that you want to discuss one of the principles of Kabbalah that Isidore
yes,
referred to. And
yes.
so we'll get to that. So here's the quote, and maybe you and I can discuss it a little bit.
Okay.
Unless a person is both aware and trained, the nasty and perverted moods of anyone you chance to meet can be transferred to you almost instantly by a kind of auric induction.
Hmm. Yes, that's something that I experience on a fairly regular basis.
Well, yeah, especially
Just,
now in these times when a lot of people are agitated about this is
yeah,
election season 2024 right now. Um,
yeah, that's right. And I
People who
just
are
had,
watching this podcast in the future know the outcome. We don't know it yet.
yeah, I mean, this happened the other day. I went to visit my son in Southern California, and uh, he's a big San Francisco 49er fan. So, just to make a long story short, in the first 15 minutes, I was starting to have the induction experience because there was a lot of negativity about how bad they were playing. And I had to let it go because I was starting to get so enmeshed
Mhm.
in it and identify with it. It felt like a big brick. I'm very fortunate that I'm aware because I could see where somebody who wasn't aware, I didn't catch it right away. It took a few minutes. And so I started going, oh my God, what, who cares? I mean, let it go. But that was definitely an example. And so uh, it was my identification that resonated with it. And of course, I'm close with my son. So I picked up on it, and I don't want to blame him because it was my responsibility to let the energy go.
Mhm.
But that is a real problem depending on what kind of environment you're in on a regular basis.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
so people's moods and
yeah,
attitudes are contagious.
exactly. Yes, you need to be on your tippy toes.
Yeah.
And that's where awareness comes in because awareness gives you a certain feeling or experience of detachment. And also we have self-reflection happening. So you can pick up on it's not you. The tendency is to identify it's you because you are experiencing it, but you
Right.
don't have to continue
Right.
because energy follows attention.
Hmm. Yeah,
Something
but
like that.
but it's also, I know, and by the way, this show, this series, this podcast is all about our experience of the wisdom teachings called Organics.
Yes.
That was created by Isidore Friedman.
And
Um,
his wonderful book, Organics, The Law of the Breathing Spiral, and his
yeah,
new book is actually in production, should be out sometime in November. Well,
yeah.
not new book, it's the old book redone,
Mhm.
the wisdom book. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep, and we also have this, I don't know how many copies left of this. These are his Songs of the Star Lords.
Yes. And
Um,
if
Did he
we
ever
were,
tell you this? Did Isidore ever tell you the story of how he received these poems, the Songs of the Star Lords?
my memory it may be off, you might have a better memory than I do, something to the effect that he was woken up and
Yeah,
it came to him and he wrote them down.
he was
Do you?
shown. He
Yeah.
told me he was shown everything that he writes about in the Songs of the Star Lords. Maybe we'll read one of those today.
Yeah, and as a poet myself, because I actually, believe it or not, started off wanting to be a poet when I went to college. So when I would read his stuff, I would say, that's a very, I mean, the metering in it and the um, rhyming just seemed like unbelievably naturally
Yeah,
working. I can't put it in words even,
and the
but
depth
it's
of it, the
yeah,
depth.
the depth of it,
Yeah,
because that's a given. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So, so just as our auric states, our feeling states are like auric, they radiate out like an aura or
Hmm.
and an attitudes. You and I have commented many times on the positive application of that, kind of like a Shakti pod that we would experience in Isidore's
Yeah,
presence, the
yeah.
raising of our energy, the clearing of our minds, the
Hmm.
freeing, the sense of just total limitlessness that would come about with him in clarity and depth.
Yeah, that was nice induction.
Uh-huh. That was positive induction.
Yeah,
So, and
positive.
so, the consequences of getting caught up in someone else's mood or attitude, it's not just that it can lead to negativity or unbalance, but it could be very draining.
Oh yeah. Oh
All
yeah.
that
So
emotionalism coming in, it, you can't think straight, you can't see straight.
you can't speak straight. You start speaking very negatively, and then you sometimes want to tell somebody about it, and then you pass it along to someone else, even through
Bigger.
the, yeah. And
Uh-huh.
rather than just don't talk about it, let it go, move
It,
on.
did you ever hear, I think he wrote it too, but he would say, nothing matters very much and most things not at all.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, he said that, but many
And that's
times. Yeah,
just like the basic fundamental attitude of just feeling free and centered. He would talk about how, the measure of wisdom is an individual's ability to just be sitting quietly and
yeah.
experience complete fulfillment. You don't need all the drama and all the commotion, right?
Oh yeah, you don't need that. And you're bringing this up because the book that's coming out in November, the Wisdom book, which we're recreating, uh, has a lot of that in there. That's why it's called the Wisdom book. There's tons of wisdom in there, and he
Mhm.
talks about the very thing you just mentioned.
Yeah. And, you don't really come in contact with that very often
No,
with other writers or other teachers talking about like, and you and I talked about it in our previous episode about the basic point of consciousness,
yeah,
recognizing where someone else is at. So you can sort of, modify how you're interacting with them, how open you are, how much time you spend with them, how close,
hmm,
how personal you get with them.
yeah,
All
yeah,
that opens us up to whatever their, energetic state is, whatever their mood or attitude is.
yeah. You bring up a very good point. If you don't pay it, if you tend not to pay attention to that, and you're around someone, say, that you don't know them that well, and you're beginning to have an interaction someplace, it might be at a public event or something like that, and you allow it to go on too long, afterward, at least in my case, you can start to feel an induction of the energy,
Mhm.
sometimes for quite a long time.
So by induction, you mean you receive it.
Yeah, I'm picking up on it,
Mhm.
and even though I'm not physically there, I'm experiencing the after effects, resonance, rapport, whatever you want to call it. And sometimes if I had paid attention to it more closely, I wouldn't have got so caught up in it.
Right.
But then I have to go through a process of letting it go. Sometimes it takes a while,
Now,
at least in
now,
my case.
yeah, well, yeah, and Bitfan, whose teachings of the School of the Natural Order are very much, connected to Isidore's. Isidore
Oh yeah.
introduced both of us to Bitfan, I think.
Hmm.
He used to talk about how regarding another person's state or mood or attitude, it's force against force. It's
Yeah.
not like a moral thing. It's not like, well, if I'm
No,
at
no.
peace and I'm in harmony, I'm not going to be affected by that person who's being
Hmm.
very angry or frustrated or unhappy about something.
Yeah.
If the intensity of their state is stronger than my peace, it's going to start to come in.
Yeah. So if you're
Quite true.
tired, especially if you're tired already,
Especially if
so
you're tired,
yeah,
especially if you're
because then
tired or if you
even though you
yourself.
know better and you know it's not wise,
Hmm?
you're tired, and sometimes if you have a lot of, one thing I would go through from time to time is, say a group of students had a paper due, and they needed to post it online, put their paper up, load it up. And sometimes a lot of them would all want to do it at the very last minute. I can feel it. They're, oh,
Yeah.
the deadline's coming.
All right.
And I realize if I'm too tired, that's not a good thing to do,
Right.
because then it's hard to explain, but you're getting little feelings in your stomach,
Yeah.
maybe a little heat in the back of the
It's
neck.
taking control of your system. It's taking
Right.
control of your psyche. It's
So
taking control of your chakras even.
I
Yeah.
needed to pay attention and allow the energy to move upward, do some rhythmic breathing. Don't over-identify with it. Be conscious where it's coming from. It's nothing personal, like you said. Just allow yourself to breathe it in, breathe it out, and let it go.
Mhm.
So
And
sometimes when go ahead.
yeah, yeah. And if someone's in an extremely irate or nervous state, you can do everything possible and it's still going to resonate with you.
Yeah,
You know, and you need to give yourself some time. Once you recognize that you've been affected by an
yeah.
emotional state, you need to give yourself some time to find your way back into your center before
Yes.
you get into serious conversations or try to make
Mhm.
important decisions. It's almost like drinking, and I have found that
Yeah.
exposure to a kind of a chaotic emotional state, I can feel like I'm hungover afterwards.
Oh yeah, yeah. It can wear you down if it's a little bit of an avalanche or a tsunami of energy that
Yeah,
comes your way that you're
yeah.
picking up on. But over time, you learn how to recognize it quicker and quicker. So
Hmm.
the quicker you pick up on it and don't identify,
Yeah.
at least from my case, the quicker
Yeah.
I can let it go.
Well, you know, as we practice just being aware, practicing bare attention, it seems to me that like our field of awareness expands and you can pick up on something like 5 blocks away.
Oh yeah.
Just have a feeling like I'm going to not go down that way. I don't know
Hmm.
why, but I feel like going to the left.
Yeah.
And there's something going on that you're picking up. There's an energy pattern there
Oh
that you
yeah.
need to avoid in order to maintain a centered state of clarity so you can function sanely and effectively.
Yeah. I think one thing Izzy would say, maybe I don't have the wording right, but awareness is your only protection.
Uh,
I think he said something like that.
Is your shield of protection, I
Yeah,
remember him.
that's your, and it's based on my experience of doing it for a long time. When I first heard it, oh, that sounds great. Now I go, I got to do that
Yeah, you got to do it.
because there's stuff that's happening. You have to be on your toes. You have to be ready to pay attention. And
Well,
even in the
this,
simplest little things, walking across the street, going to the grocery store,
yeah,
pay
sure.
it. Yeah.
Sure. Every,
Mhm.
every little thing you do to, you know, anytime you forget what you've done, like where you put your phone down,
Yeah.
realize that's a moment of unconsciousness.
Yes.
And to me, when something like that happens, where I might like, you know, drop something or bump my head on a cabin or something, or getting into the car, I might hit my head slightly, you know,
Yeah.
and I take that, okay, wake up, Bob,
Yeah. Yeah.
start paying attention because this thing can spiral,
Yeah.
right?
Doesn't
You
take
know,
much. Doesn't take much. I'm sure
yeah.
the audience or anybody who listens to this will clearly recognize what we're talking about because this is
Mhm.
it's universal.
Yeah.
And so many people suffer terribly because they don't have that skill of being centered and aware.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, you know, talking about the contagion of negative energy fields, negative moods, negative attitudes, negative emotional states that people get into, naturally leads us to talk about something that Isidore and Wittfan refer to as the race psyche.
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
So how does
Yes.
the race psyche figure into this whole being aware of how my energy is being affected by moods and attitudes?
Yeah. And I'm going to do my best. I'm sure I could say it there's several different ways,
Sure.
but from my experience, you're born, at least I was born and immersed in a vat of psychological frequencies, belief
Oh,
systems. There
right.
could be religion involved, capitalism, greed, uh, do your duty, do right, don't do wrong. I mean, a whole host of beliefs that are just almost mechanically and automatically just, you might call these race psyche frequencies, these societal patterns are just laid into you. Unless you're around parents who are very conscious. I think, that's just your school, your teachers, your authorities, your TV. And in my case, reaching a point where kind of a breaking point, like that has to stop. I mean, it's not healthy. So yeah, so you have to make a change. Is that what you mean by the race psyche that
Yeah,
we're
yeah. I
immersed
mean,
in?
the
Yeah.
way I understand it is just as we can be impacted by another individual state,
Oh, oh yeah.
the whole planet, the whole
Mhm.
human race has a kind
Mhm.
of a psychic energy field around it.
Yes.
All of the emotions on the planet, all of the thoughts, all of the fears, all of the aspirations, all of the values.
Hmm.
We're like in an ocean of psychic influence upon us.
Yeah, yeah,
And like Wittgenstein talks about the individualization process, how Jesus said, "Come out from among them and be ye therefore separate,"
yeah.
to find your own true path rather than being influenced by what you're supposed to do, what people
Hmm.
expect of you, what
Hmm.
everybody else is doing. And
Yeah.
so much of the emotional pain and psychological pain that people go through, feeling they're not good enough or they're not as good as someone else, it's all part of just being influenced by the way everybody in general is
Hmm.
thinking and feeling, and
Yeah.
be able to separate yourself from that enough to be clear about your own true path in
Yeah.
life.
And then when you experience that, the absorption of negative race psyche influences or psychological vibes starts to diminish because you start to feel what it feels like to be in your center, in a state of peace, in a state of mindfulness, whatever words you want to use. It's an energetic experience. And so you don't really pick up on those frequencies quite as much. And you recognize them as you go around too. You can see it, you can
Mhm,
feel it. I
mhm,
think feel it and see it are a big deal. And you notice those things. And you notice it yourself, patterns that have not completely. Sometimes I come across things once in a while that, I mean, probably weekly. I didn't even see that before that much.
mhm,
I'm letting that go. I don't need that. That's just
mhm,
it's attracting certain people, places, things, events that aren't
mhm,
real healthy.
mhm.
So I just go to town on it and just let it go.
Well, there's also so we have the whole race psyche influence. We have,
Yeah.
excuse me, individuals that we might encounter, small groups that we might encounter that have an impact upon us energetically. What about the impact of that on physical well-being? Krzyzewski, Wittgenstein, they talk about the colloidal level,
Oh yeah, yeah.
how the energy pattern of our emotional states have a
Hmm.
direct impact upon the physiological organism.
And now you're talking about how people attract disease or disease or major health problem. Uh, Sometimes you want to blame it on your food. You want to blame it on the bad water. You want to blame it on whatever. At some point, you have to say, wait a minute. Why did I attract this? What did I do? How do I think? How do I feel? How do I experience? How do I take care of myself? Am I living a healthy, balanced lifestyle?
But also, recognizing that your moods and your attitudes have a direct impact. The
Oh
moods and
yeah.
attitudes you experience have a direct impact on your physical body.
Oh yeah.
Fan talks about the example of babies who get colic
Yeah.
when there's inharmony, when there's discord between
Hmm.
the parents in the household.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, one of the things to consider if you're dealing with a health issue, right, is the harmony. How much discord are you going into yourself? How much
Yeah.
discord are you exposing yourself to? Uh,
Yes.
there's a story about the guy Norman Cousins who like cured himself
Oh
of
yeah.
cancer by watching funny movies and getting into a happy state, and it
Yeah.
raised the energy of his body. That may or may not work for people, but you can totally take it to the bank.
Oh yeah.
The more chaotic your emotional states, whether it's coming from your own programming or that programming is being stimulated by other people or by the race psych, the more in harmony you're experiencing emotionally, the more physical problems are going to manifest.
Oh yeah. No doubt about it. I think I might have talked about this on another episode. We used to go to Bernie's Diner, so if I repeat myself, that sounds like me. But but my son is so kind. I think he told me that story 35 times. You, but I never tell you that I did. So he just let you do it. But it was a place called Bernie's Diner, and Bernie came over to our table one time, and he had all kinds of medicines. He said, "Don't do what I'm making a long story short. Don't do what I did. 40 years of working 12, 18-hour days, 7 days a week. And now I have money, but I spend it most of it or a lot of it on healthcare. And he
Yeah.
had like 25 pills lined up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting though, because we talk about the need to sort of, somewhat insulate ourselves, protect ourselves from inharmonious energy fields.
Mhm.
But, and this will lead into our discussion about a principle in Kabbalah that you and I want to
Yeah.
explore, that
Yeah.
Isidore talked about. But Isidore would also talk about, going into these inharmonious situations.
Yes.
I remember he used to say that we walk on two legs,
Yeah.
sensitivity and strength.
Hmm.
We need to be
And
sensitive to pick up on the higher frequencies for guidance, right? For
hmm.
wisdom,
Yeah.
but we have to have the strength to be able to pick up on those frequencies even when we're in low vibrations.
Yes. And God bless Izzy, because I would have probably been more mystical if it hadn't been for that training.
Yeah,
I would have, and at least what I discover, if I spend a little bit too much time, and you might say more harmonious frequencies and not balanced with rhythmic alternation, like a little more dealing with some of the difficult things of day-to-day life, you get hypersensitive,
right.
and then you start pushing it away even more.
Yeah,
And from time to time, I have students that are teachers, and they'll ask me, "Could you fill in for me? I'll be gone for 3 days, a month from now, over at such and such a middle school." I don't know if you've ever been to a middle school or not. Some middle schools can seem like I don't know, prisons, I guess you could say.
yeah,
But so I have to be, I need to be prepared. But when I go in there, I'm prepared, and it does build over those 3 days a little bit more strength
right,
and not hypersensitivity.
right,
I don't cringe at every little thing.
right.
Go in neutral, pay attention, stay in mindfulness. And I notice after those 3 or 4 days, if I've done fairly well, maybe not 100%, I do feel a little bit of an internal muscle
Yeah,
vibe.
yeah,
And I think it's so important that I make sure I do that from time to time. I'm very fortunate to have that possibility in my life. And there's going to be other things too. I mean,
sure.
you can, all kinds of events you could go to.
That's one of the reasons why I started eating meat again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I felt like I was getting too sensitive and I needed more muscle
Yep.
strength, so I started eating some fish.
I agree.
A
Yeah.
tendency is to go toward vegetarianism, but I felt that was appropriate. Do you remember there was this little restaurant, this dirty, filthy restaurant in Coney Island, like right outside of Seagate that Isidore would go to for breakfast?
Okay. Now,
Join him for breakfast. I think it was called Betty's or something like
is
that.
that the one you had to take a taxi to get to it? Or is that the one you
No,
could
no,
walk to?
it was really close by. It was very
Okay.
close by. But anyway, it was like, like at least 50% of the people who would come in there were homeless.
Yeah.
And he would eat breakfast there,
Yeah.
and Nancy, and sometimes I would go there with my wife at the time of Viva. And
Yeah.
it's like so disgusting. And
Yeah.
he would just thrive on it, drink from the dirty cup and eat from the fork. And he would say, you know how you could tell if a restaurant has good food? By the teeth marks on the fork. And
Yeah.
he said, and we would go there after a lesson
Yeah.
to get grounded.
And yeah, he did similar things with me. Uh, I mean, one time I went to a wedding with him,
Wow.
and a wedding. I said, I don't even like weddings. He said, no, you don't get it. Let's just go, and I'll show you how to handle the situation. And
Oh,
we'll
wow,
be
that's a
aware.
great
If it gets to
experience.
be too much, we'll leave. But it was quite an experience. But he kind of did the things that you just talked about, dealing with this negative energy, not overreacting, staying relatively neutral, not in your mind going, I hate this.
And I'm sure
Rather
it
just,
was quite jovial.
yeah. And he kind of got in the flow of the moment
Because the
without,
joviality is a protection as well.
yeah. So he would get into the flow of the event without overdoing it. But there was more of a flow as opposed to pushing it away.
Right.
So I learned from him, like, you can be in a situation without pushing it away. In fact, if you push it away, it gets kind of worse
Hmm.
in terms of energy coming into you and kind of
Yeah.
locking you up. Yeah.
So the approach is to try to use it
Yeah.
rather than judge it.
And you have to be aware of how much you can handle. I mean,
Right.
yeah,
Without
you can't,
question.
you don't want to go into a situation where you just, wipe you out for a month or 2 weeks
And
or something. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and it could be quite dangerous
It
because
can
you
be.
get
Yeah.
into a discombobulated emotional state, for
Yeah.
whatever reason, and you're driving, it's like driving drunk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's,
It can
you
be
get
quite hard.
disoriented. You're not, your mindfulness and
Yeah,
awareness starts to diminish.
yeah,
You're not as flexible, uh, all those kind of things. So,
yeah,
but if you're conscious, you start to realize, okay, I have this training. Am I going to apply it now or not? Okay,
right,
apply
right,
it.
right.
Oh, this works. All
Yeah,
right, great.
yeah. He would
Sometimes,
talk about alternating, going from the cave of the heart to the marketplace,
right.
back to the cave of the heart, maintaining that balance. So you have the spiritual connection and you also can work in the world. And he felt that was really what the Western spiritual tradition is about,
I
is
agree.
not going to a mountaintop and
Right.
meditating, bringing it into the world, into your workaday life, so that every day becomes like an initiation for you to grow
Hmm.
spiritually, to grow more conscious, to develop mastery of your own forces.
Hmm. I
In
totally agree with that in my experience. I know, I think it's Gurdjieff and Uspensky, they called it the fourth way.
Mhm.
It's the way of both two worlds, 200%. That's how the Egyptian talked about it. The translation was two worlds, 200%. So you find a way to just deal with everyday reality along with your internal uh, growth, ability, skills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Vidfan just talked about, the path is about developing mastery of your own creative forces,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there are times, sometimes it's not an emotional uh pull, it could be a mental pull where there
Hmm.
have been times where I haven't been able to control my thinking. I kept thinking about something and I know that's not what I want to be focusing on right now. That's
Yeah.
not where I want my life to go, but
Hmm.
impulsively my
Yeah.
mind would go there over and over again. And
I
one of
think
the
we all can relate to that, Bob.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And one of the great remedies that I found for that is tarot cards.
Oh, okay.
Because what I do is, because when you look at the DOTA, Paul Foster Case
Yeah.
tarot
Yeah.
cards enough, they're implanted in your mind. And so
Yes.
I find that all I have to do, if there's something I don't want to be thinking about, but I compulsively go there,
Oh,
I just picture the card and try to tune it to what it represents, go through
yeah.
the whole deck. By the time I'm done with the deck, my mind feels completely free.
Yeah, you shifted your energy follows attention, so you moved it to another direction is
That's
healthier, wiser, beneficial, and so
yes,
on. Yeah,
yes, yes. Um, so that brings us to the Kabbalah,
yeah,
which Isidore Friedman, he introduced me to the inner teachings of Kabbalah
yeah.
because of organics, because of Isidore's
This
teachings.
this is one
Oh,
of your books, which
yeah,
I like. It's a
thank
great
you. Yeah.
book.
One of these
Place it
days
on the
I'll have to
tree.
reprint it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, you were saying, go ahead. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm thinking next year I might do a whole course on how to use Kabbalah cards.
it's so practical. Yeah,
Oh, thank you. So, because of organics, I was able to approach Kabbalah in a practical way. Like, how do I use it in everyday life?
yeah,
Right? How do I actually apply it? And you brought up an interesting question. Why don't you bring up your question and then we'll explore the answer to it.
yeah. One that Izzy talked about over the years in many different situations, learning to balance justice and mercy.
Those two spears right over there.
Yeah, and he would
Those
use
two others.
he would say something like, "You have to know not wise to use a cannon to kill a fly.
Right.
So a
So
fly swatter is
first.
perfect for a mosquito or a fly. That's
Mhm.
enough."
Yes.
So that used to be wow. That's
Yeah.
that's a real art form right there. I
Well,
mean,
think about it. Think about it in terms of parenting.
yeah,
How often is it tempting as a parent to overreact,
yeah,
child's behavior to be too harsh,
yeah,
too severe,
exactly.
right? Because of an emotional reaction, rather than what does this child actually need? What kind of support
Hmm.
does he really need from me in order to flourish,
Yeah,
right? Rather than
yeah,
just be attacked for
yeah,
getting it
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
That's
You
too
don't
much
want
devora, too much severity.
to.
On the other hand,
Okay, you said use the word Gavora. So that
devora,
is
that's Hebrew.
that's
The
the
Hebrew
justice.
term,
That's the justice part.
that's
Justice.
justice. That's right.
Yeah.
It stands for justice or severity.
Okay, got it. I see.
Hebrew word,
Oh,
is- the Hebrew
yeah.
word is devora, and then
Okay.
the opposite, the counterbalance, is hesed, which
Okay.
means mercy or loving kindness.
Yeah.
We could go too far in that direction as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I grew up in Minnesota, and Minnesotans generally have a very automatic nice quality. It's almost too far the other way. I mean,
overly lenient,
yeah,
overly giving.
they're
If somebody
giving.
invites someone over to dinner and they steal your silverware, invite them back.
And they stay till 2 in the morning, and you don't get speak up and say, "Look, I go to work tomorrow. Or my kids have to get up at 7." Just a little bit of a Gavura energy,
Right.
which usually works pretty well if you measure it.
That's the
Yeah,
measure. That's the key.
yeah.
And even in daily life, life is as hard as you are hard on yourself.
Now say that again.
Life is as hard
Uh-huh.
as you are hard on
Oh,
yourself.
that sounds like wisdom, Bob.
Yeah, it sounds like easy. So
It's
yeah,
wisdom.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's where the Hesed and Gevurah, the balance between mercy and justice comes in. People are killing themselves to survive.
yeah.
They're working too hard and they're
Hmm.
blaming life or they're blaming their boss instead of saying, now, wait a minute, what if I just apply right measure? Let's
Yeah.
see what happens if I live my life in balance.
Yeah, recently I had an experience where I woke up at 3 in the morning and I got this real strong intuitive feeling. You know what? Just cancel everything for the day. You're pushing way too much.
There you go.
Part of me, well, part of my problem, not a problem, but issue is I love what I do so much, I tend to do it too much sometimes.
Right. Yep.
So that particular day, it seemed wise, and that's what I did. I cleared my calendar and I just rejuvenated.
Now, was that based on reason and logic, or was it based on feelings?
Feeling the energy that the next day I looked at what I was going to tentatively do and interact. It wasn't necessarily a bad situation. It was my energy state didn't match the ability to do that without stressing out.
Right.
I don't do that very often, but it was nice to, at first, oh, I can't do that. I'm disappointed. I'm doing it. No, it's a very wise move. Just do it. And it turned out fine.
And that's the balance
Yeah.
between mercy and severity, mercy and justice.
Yeah.
Where it takes a lot of faith,
Yeah.
to treat yourself well and trust that you're going to get away with that,
Yeah. Yeah.
because if you
Yeah.
don't treat yourself well, you're not going to get away with
You
it.
get the kickback.
You're going to get the kickback.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that people, sort of pound themselves or too hard on themselves is they operate based on these ideas like, well, I'm a father, so I should do this for my kid, or I'm a neighbor, so I should do this for my neighbor, even though it's wiping me out energetically and
Yeah.
it's going to leave me in the lurch.
Yeah.
And they say, well, but I have to be a good person.
Yeah, I think it's to me, I like the word art form or it's skill, maybe a skill level. When you're in a situation that's somewhat uncomfortable and you need to assert yourself wisely, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Timing's important,
Hmm.
and what you say and when you say it and how you say it can be important if words are involved.
Right.
Sometimes you have to let someone know uh, this is not comfortable right now. I'm not feeling quite up to it, or it depends on the situation. I'm theorizing until you're actually in a situation.
Right.
It's very important to be able to have things you can say or do that make sense in that situation without being mechanical.
Right. Right.
It makes it.
Sometimes I've been, so low in energy, I couldn't even ask for what I want. I just had to give it to myself. I
Yeah.
just got to say no and let the chips fall where they may.
Sometimes I just crawl into the bedroom under the covers and just turn out the lights.
That's right. That's right. For a year and a
Enough
half.
is enough. Yeah. No
Yeah.
more.
So it's all about awareness
Yeah.
and getting a feel for the right vibration for you, what the harmonious right fit. It's like, Isidore used to talk about, I remember he would say, one time in particular, he said, Bob, I don't know much, but I know this: structure, function, order is God,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it took a long time, decades, for me
Yeah. Yeah.
to really get a sense of what the heck does that mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally started to get a sense of each one of us is a structure, a unique
Yeah.
structure.
Oh yeah.
Like a cup is a structure, a light bulb is a structure, a
Mm-hmm.
car is a structure, a cell phone is a structure. Each of us is a unique structure. When we function in line with our structure,
Yeah.
We have order.
Yes.
When we function out of line with our structure, we get disorder.
Hmm.
And so, how can you tell when you're functioning in line with your structure?
In my case, I feel better. I feel more aware. I feel more flexible. I feel more adaptable. I feel like I'm enjoying myself better, more. I'm happier. I know how to. I want to enjoy more of that longer, and repeat that frequency, that place of peace and poise,
Right,
as much as possible,
right.
and be willing to bring that to whatever situation is happening, whether it's
Yeah.
easy, not easy, difficult. Yeah.
Mhm. Whatever the situation is, how I function within it is going to
Hmm.
have an effect upon my structure.
Yeah.
And if it has a negative effect on my structure, that's destructure, that's destructive.
Hmm.
So it's learning how to sense and feel, just like you can tell when you're wearing a shoe. You know, if it really fits and it feels really good, it's
Yeah.
matched the structure.
Yeah.
And your foot thrives, it's healthy, it's a healthy foot. You
Hmm.
put on a shoe that doesn't fit and you wear it a lot, it starts to
Oh
destruct
yeah.
you, destroy the foot, destroy the
Yeah.
structure.
Oh
And so
yeah.
that becomes the guide,
Hmm.
not like people's expectations and demands and orders and regulations and rules and all this other stuff. What is your guide is functioning in line with your structure. And the way you do that is you can
Hmm.
feel it.
And one of the wonderful things about it is that, and like Izzy transferred and radiated that energy, and as you do it more, whatever level you're on, that radiates out from you, and you become a bit of an ordering force in your environment.
That's right.
And it's very natural. It's not something you're trying to make happen. It's
Right.
just the vibration of natural order emanating, and things start to fall in place. Uh, you go, oh, I mean, this is kind of a simple thing. I don't want to put it out that happens all the time, but there are times when you just feel so centered. No matter where you drive, everything works out.
Right. No
All
red
the
lights.
green lights, perfect place to park,
Yep.
this and that. And if it doesn't happen, you handle that too. Like no big deal. Good. Oh, a little more patient. I would have got that spot. I was trying to rush.
That's right.
And 2 minutes later, I walk by. Oh, it's empty now. I mean, so you can see the relationship of your own emanation
So
to
I think
what.
one of the biggest challenges with that is people who get caught up in sort of negative or chaotic or painful emotional states, moods, and attitudes.
Mhm.
So when you're having a strong emotional state, whether it's trauma or just being triggered off in some way or being in a negative mood, you can't find that subtle frequency of your
Yeah,
structure.
yeah, you can't. Yeah,
So we
and
have to know how to liberate ourselves from being in what Isadora would call wrong state.
yeah, and one of the things that I've used, and I'm sure I got this from Izzy, is doing more and more of what you enjoy.
Mm,
If I'm doing what I enjoy to write, not all the
mm,
time, but
mm,
on a regular pattern. I
mm.
enjoy teaching. I enjoy meditating or relaxing or being quiet. And I enjoy exercise, as long as it's appropriate and not overdone, etc. And that joyful feeling that I get sort of builds, and it becomes, I want to just more or less do the things I enjoy most of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
time.
I,
Yeah.
I had a very object lesson of that back when I was living in Arizona. And I was going through a big transition. I was going through a divorce. I was walking away from a business that I had, and I was going through a lot of economic turmoil, a lot of emotional turmoil.
Yeah.
And what I had learned was that when I write, I feel better. I feel
Yeah.
inspired. I feel joyful. But
Hmm.
every time I would sit down to write, I would stop myself and say, no, you got to go out and figure out a way to make some money.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
wouldn't write and I'd get more and more depressed
Hmm.
and my
Hmm.
economics went lower. And then finally I said, I don't care. I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Then I started to write and my joy came in, opportunities for money came in, everything worked out from joy.
Yeah. Joy, and I use the word joy, and I love creative energy. So even when I did those painted rocks and sent them to you guys, there's a joyfulness in a simple movement of the brush. There's a joyfulness of the paint and the color. It's very simple, it's very clean, It's not a big deal. I
Mhm.
also do other art projects. I like my piano. I like to, I just finished a novel, which is published now. And it's almost like playing in a sandbox,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it uplifts my energy when I'm creative on a regular basis. Nice
yes.
pattern. Yeah.
And then what happens is as you learn to work with your own energy to raise the energy level, you can also help others in that way. You
Oh
can
yeah.
have relationships that are mutually supportive for joy. And you
Yeah.
can sort of sense and feel how to help someone to feel better and better and better. And as
Have
they
you-
feel better and better and better, better and better things start happening to them in their lives. They start manifesting at higher
Yes.
levels and they don't even know it. But you can be working with a child or with an adult
Hmm.
just to try to be consciously supportive of that person's joy and happiness. If you can feel it,
Yeah.
practicing what Isidore called the law of three,
Yes.
yourself, other, relationship between, right? And working with the energy. I remember Isidore and Joe, who introduced me to Isidore,
Yeah.
wrote books with. They used to have an argument about Saturn and Neptune. I don't know if you ever
Serious?
witnessed any of those.
Was that serious?
Yeah, yeah. Well, Joe was pretty serious about it.
Oh,
And
I thought he was just kidding when he did that. No,
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
it was
no,
just
he
a
would be like, no, he would be Neptune is superior to Saturn. You can tune it to higher frequencies. And Isidore would say, no, Saturn is structured in this and that. And at one point, Joe kind of questioned what he was saying. And Isidore said, don't you understand? I'm a force being. I'm talking to you from energy. It's not concepts. I'm
yeah.
working
Oh yeah.
at energy level.
Right. It's an energy. It's
Yeah.
not a highfalutin metaphysical idea. Yeah.
Metaphysical,
Yeah. It's just
in,
something
in,
that's
in
very
effect,
abstract and it
yeah,
sounds so wonderful,
right.
but it really, when it comes to function, it's almost helpless.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, occasionally I run into people. Well, what do you enjoy doing? I don't enjoy anything. Now, what do you do? If you try to bring two or three things up, they often get mad or upset.
Well, yeah, they're stuck.
I'll
There's
say, well, like the other day, I said, "Oh, I really enjoy cooking a good meal for my family. When's the last time you did it? Oh, about 6 months ago. How about tonight
right.
or tomorrow or this weekend? I
Mhm.
mean, you start with what you enjoy, and it's
Right.
funny how it just builds, not
Mhm.
funny, it builds up a momentum.
It does. It
And you
does.
enjoy it so much you want to do it again, and you want to find other things that you enjoy. I enjoy hanging out with my good friends from time to time and just having fun, relaxing moments that's just,
And
casual
part,
and
and part of the beauty of that is, as you're experiencing more of kind of a higher joy vibration,
mhm.
that wards off the negativity around you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That too is a shield. Joy is a shield of protection
Oh yes, no doubt.
as well
And
as
from
awareness.
from time to time, people come by my place, and like we experience Izzy's vibe, in his place and the build up. People say, "Oh, this feels like almost like a little bit of a temple or something
Yeah,
here."
that's what I
You
get
got the
too.
incense going over there,
Uh-huh.
nice and quiet.
Yeah,
You have wonderful things that are around that are reminders, like some of the things that you have up behind you there that
yeah,
are like reminders of high quality energy and experience. And that joyfulness sort of rubs off.
yes. The
Uh,
inspiration.
yeah, the inspiration. Energetically, they're getting a little dosage.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And you can walk into, many times I've walked into a home and it looked very nice, but I felt like I was suffocating.
Oh, yeah. I've had that similar experience. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's just
don't really want to be
like a
there.
bell jar and a candle. This
Yeah.
is just no energy. It's just
Yeah.
like all meat.
Yeah. It's everything's, nice wall, nice,
Yeah, yeah,
beautifully painted,
yeah,
very lovely furniture. All the colors coordinate. It has the right artwork on the wall, even though it doesn't really inspire just
yep,
what you're supposed to get to make it look right for
right.
that environment. But
Yeah, so you and
yeah,
I, because of our training with Isidore, we create energy environments,
yes, yes,
an
no doubt.
environment that keeps us at a higher level frequency, helps us to stay tuned in to
I'm
something.
very grateful for that. I know I went away for the weekend to visit my son and my granddaughter and his wife. And I know it'd be a little chaotic. I mean, it should be. I mean, it's just, you got the baby, you got jobs, you're going here, you're going there. Oh, this came up, that came up. But when I got home and walked through the door, within 15 minutes, I felt so aligned.
Right.
I just felt, whoa, I'm so grateful for this environment.
Yeah.
It's built up over time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that is a great promoter of physical well-being.
Hmm.
Matching, trying to feel your environment, not just look at it objectively, but try to feel it on an energy level. That's why
Yes.
we call our show Tuning In. Tune into the energy of the environment you're creating, so it's uplifting. Now, some people, they'll come with a challenge and they'll say, well, I'm really into creating this harmonious, beautiful environment, but my mate is completely unconscious on an energy level.
I shouldn't laugh, but
No, no, I
I've
mean,
heard that story before from many people over the
sure,
years.
sure, sure. So you've experienced it probably.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you say to someone like that when they're coming in with that kind of a challenge where they're on the path and they're trying to create and the other person, they get angry, they have chaotic emotional states, they don't put things away, and they just try to create order in a visual way, but not
Yeah.
necessarily energy way.
Not
How
energetically.
do you
They
console
don't,
someone like that?
yeah, that's an interesting question to ask. And it almost gets down to the unique situation at hand. I would say, I did recently had somebody I know uh, sort of have that description. And I pointed the way toward now, take care of yourself. Start with that. If you get home and you're thinking they should interact with you in a harmonious way, maybe let that go. Maybe go outside and work in your garden instead, or take one of the dogs on a long walk. You
Raise your
need to,
frequency.
yeah, raise your frequency, take care of you, and the situation will take care of itself more or less.
That's so true.
Something to like that. And the minute you try to fix somebody or make them or show them or have them study something to get to a level, they have to grow in their own way. You can't make a flower bloom before it wants to bloom.
Well, it's like the old story, the person who said, I want everybody else to go to therapy so I can feel better.
You know, you're tuning into what she said to me. So he should go to therapy.
Yeah,
If he goes
right.
to therapy, it'll be all
I'll
fixed.
feel so much better if you get help.
But anyway, we'll see what happens. I haven't talked to her in a while, but
Yeah, but no, that's a great suggestion, Greg.
it made sense to her.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
focus on raising your own frequency in that context.
And
And
if
I
the
love
person's
what the way you said, and the situation takes care of itself. It's
it
like,
takes care of itself. Takes care of itself. If you persist and you're flexible and you're willing to engage when it feels appropriate, rather than just push someone aside like that, you'll see what happens. They won't want to stay, or they'll change, or they'll go through a burst of growth, or you'll go, whatever they do, That's fine. I'm busy with this, and I'm enjoying my life, and we'll see where it goes.
so let's say there's somebody listening to this podcast 150 years from now. And
Okay.
and
Woo.
yeah, and they're like, I'd love to be able to tune into myself and raise the energy and live in this higher harmonious frequency, clueless about how to do it.
Yeah.
How would you suggest they get started?
And again, I'm going to go back to everybody is different. So you may have to try a few things and see where it leads. But I would start off with what I said before. What do you enjoy doing? You enjoy taking a walk in the woods. Do a little of that. You enjoy cooking a wonderful meal for a friend or family. Do that. Start doing more and more of the things you enjoy. You find an environment you like to go to. I know somebody who I'm thinking of right now who discovered yoga. It changed her life completely for her.
Mhm.
So going to class, go to class, go to class. Oh, I'll take a 10-week training. It
Mhm.
goes on and on. It developed a whole thing. So start off with that. And also everybody's different. Sometimes there are people a little more mentally oriented. I would say if they can find the right reading material that can contribute to that, if they're readers and they love reading and they find material like Organics, The Law of the Breathing Spiral or whatever. And what was that gentleman? You sent me his book. He was fantastic.
Paul Foster Case.
No, the other guy just recently passed away, and he was an attorney.
Oh, Arnold Patent.
Wonderful book, stuff like that. That's solid, not just a bunch of ideas, but
Well,
practical.
my encounter with him totally changed my life. I worked with him for maybe 2 months.
Yeah,
but he gave me this little missing key that was able to turn the motor over,
Yeah.
to incorporate having organics as the foundation,
Hmm.
and learning to trust joy and to be able to tune in to that joy song, and then
Yeah.
the method. And
Yeah.
so what I have found in my own experience was the way, because I used to get extremely going panic attacks, depressed, anxiety, and what finally freed me from being in bondage to negative emotional states
Uh-huh.
was the method. It was able to liberate my energy, free me from attachment to those old states, and free
Hmm.
me to just live a life of joy and to share that joy with others. So when you combine those two, it's interesting how I even found Arnold Patent. I was really going through a very big emotional struggle, and something just guided me to open a book in my library,
Yeah.
open the book at random, and my eyes fell on a line, and it was a quote from Arnold Patent, and I felt a different energy,
Hmm.
and I contacted him.
Yeah. I think you're answering part of the question yourself by what you're saying. It is an individual path. I wish there was a formula you could give people. It's almost like you have to discover your formula. By
Right.
formula, I mean your pathway. And for some people, it's a little, for us, it was definitely organics
Oh
and
yeah.
Isidore Friedman,
Oh yeah.
because I was too mentally abstract and not functional. And so I needed that. So you start to draw what you need. And if you start doing that, step on that path, you'll attract the very thing you need. Like you
Mhm.
found that book and that line.
Yeah.
When I come across something, I go, whoa, this is exactly what I need next.
Right.
I can feel it.
Right.
And they get stronger and stronger over time.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. Especially if you're, down in the pit of deepest darkness,
yeah,
just keep going. Keep
yeah,
looking. Don't
keep,
give up. Just keep trying this, trying that.
yeah,
You will find a way out. It will.
yes, yeah, you'll be drawn to it. And of course, you get that, you can ask for inner guidance. I know Izzy had things where you get the invocations and the uh, the phraseology of invoking and asking for help. There's many ways of doing that. You can ask,
Mhm.
and that energy, that consciousness is there and available to you
Well,
if you're receptive.
one of the simplest ways that I learned with him was something called e-therapy.
Ah, yes.
Remember e-therapy?
Yeah, is that the one where you it has to do with I have it written down somewhere.
Yeah, well,
But
it's a
yeah,
very simple process. You
yeah.
simply close your eyes
Oh yeah. Okay.
and you ask for help,
Yeah,
and then
that's
just
it.
watch.
Yeah.
Watch what happens. Maybe your body twitches or you feel some alignment or ideas come. Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful,
Uh,
simple process.
you will we can go into automatic thinking, but when you're calmer, more relaxed, some of the thoughts that come to you are actually guidance. It's a wise course of action. It might be today, it might be right away, it might be next month, but you pay attention to that and it feels different. It feels like, oh, you need to get that done. You have skip this, do this, and it feels
Or
better.
or do nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Just be.
The art of doing nothing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mastered that.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people call me a loser, but I feel like I'm a winner.
Well, loser, right? I'm just free.
Free, yeah.
I'm just
You
free.
don't have to
Yeah,
accomplish anything.
yeah, just getting accustomed through awareness, getting accustomed to reality,
Hmm.
paying attention, bear attention, paying attention. Noticing what you're feeling, noticing what you're thinking, not analyzing it or thinking about it, noticing what's happening around you, notice what you're
Yeah.
picking up, and you start to wake up.
Yes.
A
I know
light starts to dawn.
Dizzy, of course, talks about this. Spend more and more time in bare attention, more and more time in the now, bare attention of mindfulness, of in the present rather than when you think you go into the past or the future. And
You
it's a
described it
very,
as a thoughtless state of
yeah,
nonverbal awareness.
yeah, there you go.
And then you can start to
Yeah,
feel the energy. Maybe those who are watching can feel a certain kind of energy, a frequency, a feeling as you view this podcast, as you listen to it. Maybe
Yeah.
it's food for your soul. Maybe it's starting to feed and nurture you on some hidden level. I know when I first started working with Isidore, was the first time I experienced feeling like nurtured on the light. Like all
Mm.
these books that he would recommend, I
Oh, yeah.
devoured them because they just raised my frequency. They freed me, they fed me.
Yeah.
Following that.
And that's why I mentioned earlier, for some people, part of their path is being a reader, finding the material that really points the way. I know when I came across Wittmann's material, it was like, wow,
Yeah.
like drinking pure nectar.
Yep.
I said, wow, this stuff is like solid and
Just for
enjoyable
the
and
energy. Just
just
the energy.
raises my vibration, gives me
Sure.
some functional tools that I can do to feel better in the moment. And so, anyway,
And then just even going to home farm.
oh yeah,
Get fan taught and lived and feeling the energy there that carries that frequency, that field of
yeah,
Bitcoin's energy that was so delicious. Well, Greg,
yeah.
we've come
Love
to
it.
the close of episode
Woo!
12.
Amazing.
We've covered Kabbalah and gone through all kinds of stuff together today.
Sounds good.
So
Wow.
in closing,
Yeah.
some Dr. G pearls of wisdom. What would you like folks to
I
carry
tend to
with them
I tend
between
to
now and
repeat
the next
myself.
episode?
I sort of repeat myself most times. Whatever you heard today, whatever you heard or listened to or saw before on some of the other podcasts, pick something out and do it. Just give yourself an hour, half hour, 20 minutes. Do something as opposed to being only inspired or only, oh yeah, I'm going to do that someday, or go ahead and start.
And one nice practice that you might want to begin with is what we talked about in the Kabbalah,
Yeah.
which is where just start measuring how much force you're using.
Yeah.
That you don't use too much force or you don't use too little force. You're not too assertive. You're not too unassertive. Keep working on trying to find and feel your balance in that process. Actually bring it into your daily life.
That's a good one. Yeah. That'll
Okay.
go a long way right there.
All right, my
All right.
friend.
All
Until
right.
next
Well,
time,
we'll stay in touch.
we'll stay in the organic wisdom touch.
Adios, amigo.
Adios,
All
amigo.
power to your people.
Until next time. Thank you.